Jiro here for Umbra Games with a review of Kirby Star Allies, exclusively for Nintendo Switch. It's always good to see main Nintendo first-party titles release on their new hardware, so we know the IPs are still alive and kicking. One always hopes to see a bit of innovation and creativity with some of these series though, and since Nintendo doesn't really see much of a graphics boost in recent generations, with Nintendo titles, you always want those breakthroughs to come in gameplay and mechanics. Now, if there's any possible way you're not familiar with Kirby, you gotta start on the original Game Boy with Kirby's Dream Land. I won't go into full history here because he's had a ton of games through the ages and platforms, and has also appeared in the Nintendo fighting series Smash Bros. Since the beginning. His main function has always been to inhale items in the environment. While breathing in normal objects, Kirby can shoot them back in the form of a star. Certain enemies have abilities, so when Kirby inhales them and then digests them, he can gain that power. In Star Allies, Kirby uses his friendly, charming ability with the press of the X button to throw hearts at enemies, which you can do at any time in order to convince foes to join your side. You can have up to 3 new friends at a time, and their health bars will go next to Kirby's at the bottom of the screen. You heart an enemy when you have a full party, you'll be able to choose whether or not to dismiss a current party member and replace them. Star Allies also takes this a step further by allowing you to combine powers between your friends. For example, if you inhale a sword guy and you have a fire guy in your party, you can press up and hold Kirby's sword in the air and the fire guy will enchant it with fire. The broom guy with the rock guy will launch a giant smashing attack, and so on. Now, if you're playing by yourself, your allies will be AI controlled, and they do a pretty good job of using their abilities for navigation when a barricade is presented, for example. You can also have people join in and take control in local co-op as you gain the allies. Kirby Star Allies has a world map where you can guide Kirby and friends to circles denoting levels. You can replay levels easily at any time by walking there on the map, or choosing the level from the level list accessed by hitting Y. Kirby, as in his previous platforming games, can jump, and if you press the jump button while in the air, can inflate and fly as long as you keep pressing that button and don't touch the ground. As you can imagine, in a platforming game, this can take away a lot of the danger inherent to the genre. There are vertical sections of the game with multiple ladders guiding you up, but you can just skip them all. If you have a boss that does a move where they travel all the way around the perimeter of the screen, you don't have to worry about timing your jumps, you can just float there in the middle. Thus comes a challenge for the developers of Kirby games in level design. Which brings me to my first issue with this iteration. I mean, yes, Kirby games have always been a bit on the easy side, but it seems as though HAL Laboratories probably put more effort into the abilities in the friend system rather than the level design. Now, I'm not exaggerating when I say that I could probably beat a quarter of the levels in this game with my eyes closed. So many levels are simply go left to right and walk in a door, fly a little bit when needed. The game's final world, World 4 that is, finally started doing some things, making a level where you had a final door in front of you and you had to discover doors to go through and complete a left to right section to open one of several gates in the main room. There's also a level that had doors that you walked through and it changed the season of the level, but it was barely used for any sort of clever mechanics. A hidden switch was only available in winter, for example, and that was it. There are many boss fights in over half the worlds, and they all just cycle through the same handful of foes that you continue to see over and over again. Not to mention, when you have 3 friends with you, they all attack pretty well, so you could sit in a corner if your life is low and we'll do all the work for you. There are pedestals in some levels that require you to have an appropriate number of allies to perform a friend action, like forming a circle where you roll through a level, crushing every enemy in front of you, or a train with pretty much the exact same functionality. You do take to the skies like a side-scrolling shooter with one type of pedestal, and there's a sort of minigame, get the hamster with the key to the door, where you form a bridge hand to toe and move up and down making sure the hamster doesn't hit some spikes. Now I am going to give full spoilers here because it's such a shock and shake up to the game's formula that it deserves talking about. So here we go. The whole game is this normal trees and hearts and stars and happy music, and it's sweet to a point that when you eat food or drink to recover your life and it goes above and beyond your life bar, you make a hug or kissing motion or something with your allies and pass on some of that life too. I mean, super happy game. Then the last boss is a cultist, like something stripped out of The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, that commits ritual suicide to bring a Dark Lord back to life. Then the final boss turns into this quasi-shooter where you fly around on a star trying to blow the Dark Lord's body apart, and then enter the neck hole after you decapitate him and pull his heart apart. The sad thing is, this was by far the most interesting part of the game. I think they were also trying to break the record for most final boss forms. I think it was like 8 or something like that. There are collectible puzzle pieces in the stages, regular blue ones that can be found all over the place through broken containers or treasure chests, and sometimes just hovering around. Nearly every level also has a hidden rainbow puzzle piece as well, and when it's found, it's marked on the level that you found it. The blue puzzle pieces are applied to seemingly random celebration photos at the end of the level. You don't get to pick, you don't get to place the pieces. The rainbow pieces fill in those same pictures but fill in the pink spots. Sometimes a rainbow piece will fill in 1, sometimes 2, and I even saw 3 empty slots. I had a message when I started my game that there was an additional photo available as well, so it seems like it could be maybe something continually added to. I mean, this is not really a completion reward that I could get excited about. I mean, if you could at least place the pieces and put together a puzzle, or choose what picture to make or something, could have done a little bit more for completion desire. As it was, I redid no levels in my 5-hour playthrough and seemed to have only missed about 3 rainbow pieces. In addition to the puzzle pieces, the game has extra levels that can only be obtained by finding a switch inside specific levels. The switch can also open dream palaces, one in each of the game's 4 worlds, that allow you to grab a dream rod and summon what the game calls dream allies, including longtime nemesis King DDD and various added characters from previous Kirby games. These function like regular allies. Now, to access the special areas in a stage, you'll often need that combination of powers, but usually you don't have to look too far to find the necessary allies to make it happen. A few different enemies will provide essentially the same power. There are multiple ice guys, for example, and to get the rock guy to knock down walls, you can combine a broom guy and a rock, or an ice guy and a rock, or just have the Bugsy guy who can simply toss someone. Once you complete the game, you open up a time attack mode where you can choose from any of the enemies, run through a compilation of the game's levels, gathering power stars that give you speed and health and attack up as you try to set timed records. There's also a boss rush mode of sorts called the Ultimate Choice, where you choose how many battles and what allies and gain points for your speediness of takedowns. There are a couple other little mini games right off the bat too, no pun intended, including protecting the planet from a meteor by hitting it like a baseball, timing your meter and point of contact with it, as well as a tree chopping game. Now keep in mind, this review comes from a 36-year-old who's been gaming since literally I was 5 years old. It's quite possible that Nintendo was aiming for a completely younger crowd with this Kirby game, where the 3 to 12-year-olds could play this and have a good time. But I do want to reiterate to you out there like me that continue to play Nintendo first-party titles as they release. You will most likely get bored with Star Allies. I can confirm you can get extra lives into the triple digits. And again, I didn't repeat any levels. I died twice on instant death crushings from Donkey Kong Country style barrel segments that I didn't see coming, and once on the second form of the final boss, and that was it. The level design was overly simplistic, the boss is repetitive, the AI solid enough to do the combat for you, pointless random completion awards, and while it did have some fun powers and combination of powers, those helped kill any sort of difficulty. Since most hidden areas that required powers had the necessary enemies in front or around it, there was little need for preparation either. Keeping in mind, all scoring you see everywhere is subjective to the reviewer. Rated as a 2D action platformer, Kirby Star Ally receives a 57 out of 100 on my true 0 to 100 scale, with 50 being an average game. This is Jiro for Umbra Games. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button if you like what you see here, and you can also find me on Twitter at Umbra Games.